The battlefield was silent in a way Lucius found unsettling. No screams of terror, no clash of weapons, no desperate cries for mercy. The absence gnawed at him, more jarring than any cacophony. His ornate armor, alive with the faces of his past victims, seemed agitated, the bound souls twisting in unnatural silence. Ahead stood his adversary, a mortal, unremarkable in form. No elaborate armor adorned their frame, no crackling weapon suggested an advantage. Yet they stood with an eerie calm, their face devoid of the emotions Lucius craved to see: fear, awe, hatred, or envy. "Do you know who I am?" Lucius began, his voice dripping with mockery, amplified by the wailing echoes of the souls trapped in his armor. "Do you understand the privilege of standing before perfection itself?" The figure tilted their head slightly. "I know what you are," they replied simply. Their tone was flat, uninterested. The words struck Lucius harder than any blade. "What you are, not who." Lucius sneered, tightening his grip on the blade of perfection. "Then you'll know what it means to be remade in my image." He lunged, his movements a flawless symphony of speed and precision. The figure evaded with infuriating ease, their motions deliberate yet unadorned by any grace. As their duel unfolded, Lucius's strikes became faster, more ferocious, yet the figure countered with a quiet simplicity that he could not penetrate. Every time he adjusted his form, every time he sought to exploit an opening, they were already a step ahead. "I feel nothing," the figure said suddenly, their words cutting deeper than any blade. "No envy, no pride, no satisfaction. You cannot touch me, Lucius." Rage boiled in his veins. "Lies!" he roared, his attacks growing erratic. "Everyone feels something. Everyone craves perfection. I am what they aspire to be." The figure's gaze remained steady. "Your curse is built on a lie you tell yourself, that everyone is like you. But they are not." Lucius faltered. It was the briefest hesitation, but it was enough. The figure stepped forward, their hand glowing faintly with psychic energy. A single touch to his chest sent a pulse of unimaginable agony through him. His screams joined the chorus of his armor's imprisoned souls. As Lucius crumpled to his knees, the figure leaned in close. "You are not eternal," they whispered. "Not truly. You are only as endless as the pride you inspire. And one day, no one will care." When Lucius awoke, the battlefield was empty. His armor was silent, the faces dormant, as if contemplating the encounter. For the first time, a sliver of doubt crept into his mind. Who had that mortal been? And what did their words mean for the curse he had long seen as his triumph? In the quiet, Lucius felt a strange sensation he could not name, a crack in the perfection he had always believed to be unassailable. For the first time in centuries, Lucius was left to wonder, not about his next duel, but about the truth of his legend. In the grim darkness of the far future, where war is eternal and survival often hinges on the edge of a blade, some names rise above the clamor of battle. They are not simply warriors or generals, they are legends. Among these, few are as fearsome or as unsettling as Lucius the Eternal, a servant of the chaos god Slaanesh, and a figure of unparalleled infamy in the galaxy of Warhammer 40,000. Known as the Blade of Perfection, Lucius embodies the twisted beauty and unending torment of his patron deity, leaving a legacy as both an unstoppable duelist and an accursed soul damned by his own arrogance. The story of Lucius is one of hubris and horror, a tale drenched in blood and marked by the screams of his victims. His rise through the ranks of the Emperor's children, once one of the noble Space Marine legions, was fueled by an insatiable hunger for perfection. Yet, his descent into madness and corruption was as inevitable as it was tragic. Lucius is not merely a warrior. He is a phenomenon, a grim symbol of Slaanesh's promise of excess and torment. Every time he is slain, the curse that binds him ensures his return, reshaped from the body of the one who dared to defeat him, making his existence an unending cycle of death and rebirth. But what truly makes Lucius unforgettable is not just his mastery of combat or his horrific curse, it is the way he captures the very essence of Slaaneş's ethos. To Slaaneş, pleasure and pain are inseparable, and no act of excess is too extreme. Lucius revels in this duality, treating every battle as a perverse form of art. For him, perfection is not just an ideal, it is a weapon, and his victims are merely tools to refine it. To understand Lucius the Eternal, one must delve into the fractured history of the Emperor's children, the seductive power of chaos, and the nature of Slaaneş itself. His tale is inseparable from the fall of the Eldar, the Horus heresy, and the eternal wars that plague the galaxy. As we explore his life, his deeds, and the curse that defines him, we uncover not just the story of one man, but a grim reflection of the universe itself, a place where beauty becomes horror and glory leads inexorably to ruin. Prepare to enter the world of Lucius the Eternal, a champion of chaos who exemplifies the ultimate paradox of Warhammer 40,000, the pursuit of perfection that leads only to damnation. This is a story of tragedy and triumph, horror and hubris, art and atrocity. This is the tale of the Blade of Perfection. The story of Lucius the Eternal is shaped not only by his actions, but by the figures who influenced his rise, downfall, and eternal curse. These key players represent a spectrum of loyalty, ambition, and corruption, each leaving an indelible mark on Lucius's grim legend. From his brothers-in-arms to the dark powers of the Warp, these individuals and entities define the path of the Blade of Perfection. At the heart of Lucius's origin lies the Emperor's Children, the Third Legion of the Adeptus Astartes. Once paragons of perfection and nobility, they were led by their Primarch, Fulgrim, a figure of immense charisma and vision. Fulgrim's obsession with achieving perfection became the cornerstone of the Legion's ethos. For Lucius, Fulgrim was more than a leader. He was an ideal to emulate. The Primarch's descent into corruption mirrored Lucius's own, as both succumbed to the seductive whispers of Slaaneş, the chaos god of excess. Fulgrim's transformation into a demon prince served as both a warning and a promise for his followers, and Lucius took this path to its grisly conclusion, embracing the extremes of devotion and debauchery. Among his peers in the Emperor's Children, Lucius stood out as a master duelist, but he also inspired rivalry and animosity. One such rival was Saul Tarvitz, a loyalist space marine who refused to betray the Emperor during the Horus heresy. Tarvitz embodied the virtues that Lucius once claimed to uphold: honor, loyalty, and humility. Their enmity came to a head during the battle for Istvan III, where Tarvitz thwarted Lucius's schemes and exposed the depth of his treachery. Despite their shared origins, Tarvitz represented everything Lucius had abandoned, making their conflict a symbolic clash of ideals. Though Lucius ultimately triumphed over Tarvitz, the encounter deepened his descent into corruption, as he discarded any lingering pretense of honor. Another significant figure in Lucius's story is Fabius Bile, the twisted apothecary of the Emperor's Children. Bile's experiments on his brothers accelerated the Legion's transformation into grotesque mockeries of their former selves. While Lucius often regarded Bile's work with disdain, the two shared a dark symbiosis. Bile's ability to enhance the physical prowess of the Emperor's Children and create horrific abominations aligned with Lucius's quest for martial supremacy. Yet, their relationship was far from amicable. Lucius viewed Bile's scientific detachment as a mockery of true perfection, while Bile saw Lucius's obsession with combat as short-sighted and primitive. Despite this tension, both were instrumental in perpetuating the Emperor's Children's reign of terror. As Lucius's fame grew, so too did his connection to Slaaneş, the chaos god who came to embody his every desire and flaw. Slaaneş is not a figure in the traditional sense, but an omnipresent force of excess and decadence. For Lucius, Slaaneş is both a patron and a reflection of his innermost nature. The god's favor manifests in the form of supernatural resilience, unending vitality, and the horrific curse that defines Lucius's existence. His victims are consumed by their own envy, transforming into new vessels for his twisted soul. Slaanesh's influence ensures that Lucius's story is an unending cycle of conquest and torment, as he continually seeks to surpass his own limits in service to the god of excess. Beyond these immediate figures, Lucius's legend has intersected with numerous adversaries and allies across the galaxy. Among his most notable enemies are the Aldari, whose pursuit of perfection parallels that of the Emperor's children but takes a starkly different form. The Aldari view Lucius as a grotesque mockery of their ideals, and he, in turn, despises their arrogance and fragility. His clashes with Aldari champions, particularly those of the Asuryani and Drukhari, have become legendary, as he revels in dismantling their carefully honed techniques and turning their artistry into carnage. Equally significant are Lucius' encounters with the Imperium of Man, particularly the Adeptus Astartes loyal to the Emperor. Chapters like the Ultramarines, Salamanders, and White Scars have all faced Lucius in battle, each striving to end his horrific cycle of rebirth. Among these foes, certain individuals stand out for their tenacity and skill, such as Chaplain Cassius of the Ultramarines, who has survived numerous encounters with Chaos champions, including Lucius. Yet, despite their efforts, none have succeeded in permanently vanquishing the Eternal Duelist. Even among the forces of Chaos, Lucius's relationships are fraught with conflict. His arrogance and unrelenting pursuit of perfection have earned him the ire of fellow champions, particularly those who see him as a threat or an annoyance. For example, Abaddon the Despoiler, the War Master of Chaos, tolerates Lucius's presence in the Black Legion, but views his self-absorption as a liability. Similarly, other champions of Slaanesh, such as the Mask or the Keeper of Secrets Shalaxi Hellbane, regard Lucius as both a rival and a tool in their schemes. These internal rivalries highlight the fractious nature of chaos, where even allies are bound by little more than opportunism and mutual loathing. Ultimately, the key players in Lucius's story are defined by their relationships with him, be they adversaries, allies, or patrons. Each encounter reinforces his legend as the Blade of Perfection, a figure whose relentless drive for mastery leaves devastation in its wake. Lucius exists not in isolation, but as a product of the galaxy's endless wars and the ambitions of those around him, ensuring that his tale remains as complex and tragic as the universe itself. The path that led Lucius the Eternal to his cursed destiny is a story of ambition, arrogance, and an insatiable hunger for perfection. Like all Astartes, his origins lie in the gene seed of his Primarch and the martial traditions of his legion. However, Lucius's transformation into the infamous champion of Slaanesh was neither immediate nor accidental. It was a gradual fall, shaped by his character, the circumstances of his legion's descent, and the corrupting whispers of chaos. Lucius began as a prodigy among the Emperor's children, the Third Legion of the Adeptus Astartes. These warriors were renowned for their pursuit of perfection in all things, from combat skill to physical form. They considered themselves the pinnacle of humanity, a belief instilled in them by their Primarch, Fulgrim. For Lucius, this ethos was not merely a guiding principle, but an obsession. He excelled in every aspect of the Legion's training, proving himself a peerless duelist. His mastery of the blade was unparalleled, and his arrogance grew alongside his skill. What set Lucius apart from his brothers was his unyielding confidence in his abilities. He believed that no opponent, no matter how skilled, could best him in combat. Yet, this belief was not merely bravado. Lucius genuinely saw combat as an art form, and he viewed himself as its greatest practitioner. This mindset earned him admiration and resentment in equal measure. While some saw him as a shining example of the Emperor's children's ideals, others recognized his hubris as a dangerous flaw. The seeds of Lucius's fall were sown during the Great Crusade, as the Emperor's children sought to reclaim the galaxy in the name of the Imperium. Like his brothers, Lucius fought valiantly, achieving countless victories. But for him, these battles were not about loyalty to the emperor or the greater cause. They were opportunities to prove his superiority. He began to view his fellow Astartes not as comrades but as rivals, each encounter a contest to assert his dominance. This perspective isolated Lucius, even among the tightly knit bonds of a Space Marine Legion. The turning point came during the Horus Heresy, the galaxy-spanning civil war that shattered the Imperium. Fulgrim, the Primarch of the Emperor's children, was seduced by chaos, lured by the promise of power and perfection. Under Fulgrim's leadership, the Legion fell into decadence and madness, their pursuit of excellence twisting into depravity. For Lucius, the heresy provided a new stage on which to prove himself. He embraced the Legion's descent into chaos, not out of loyalty to Fulgrim or Horus, but because it aligned with his personal philosophy, the rejection of limits and the unrelenting pursuit of perfection. One of the pivotal moments in Lucius's journey occurred on Istvan III, where the Emperor's children betrayed their loyalist brethren. Lucius, like many of his brothers, sided with the traitors, driven by his belief that the path of chaos offered greater opportunities for self-advancement. During this conflict, his ambition led him to betray Saul Tarvitz, a fellow Astartes who had once been his friend. Lucius attempted to eliminate Tarvitz, but his former comrade's skill and tactical acumen outmatched him, forcing Lucius to retreat in disgrace. Though Lucius would later exact his revenge, this failure haunted him, reinforcing his obsession with proving his superiority at all costs. As the heresy progressed, Lucius became increasingly enmeshed in the worship of Slaanesh, the chaos god of excess. For Slaanesh, Lucius was an ideal servant. His relentless pursuit of perfection and his willingness to cast aside morality aligned perfectly with the god's ethos. Slaanesh's influence began to manifest in Lucius's behavior and appearance. His once pristine armor became adorned with grotesque embellishments, and his fighting style evolved into a horrifying blend of elegance and brutality. Every duel became a ritual, a performance dedicated to the Prince of Pleasure. The moment Lucius truly became the Eternal came later, after the Horus Heresy, during one of the countless battles fought by the Emperor's children in the Eye of Terror. By this time, Lucius had already gained a reputation as an unstoppable duelist. His hubris led him to challenge a powerful rival, a fellow champion of chaos, who ultimately defeated and killed him. But death did not bring an end to Lucius. Instead, his curse began to unfold. The rival who had struck him down began to change, their body and mind warping into a twisted replica of Lucius. Overwhelmed by envy and guilt, the rival was consumed by Lucius's essence, allowing the champion to rise again, reborn in their flesh. This curse, granted by Slaanesh, ensured Lucius's immortality. From that point on, anyone who defeated Lucius in single combat and felt even a moment of satisfaction or pride in their victory would fall victim to the curse, becoming the next vessel for his resurrection. This horrifying phenomenon cemented Lucius's place as one of Slaanesh's most favored servants. The curse was not merely a punishment for his enemies. It was a reflection of Lucius's own arrogance, a grotesque reward for his unrelenting pursuit of perfection. Lucius's transformation into the Eternal was the culmination of his lifelong journey. He had sought to become the greatest duelist in the galaxy, and in many ways, he succeeded. But his victory came at a terrible cost. No longer truly human, Lucius became a symbol of Slaanesh's dominion, a living weapon of excess and torment. His curse ensured that his legend would endure, spreading fear and despair among those who dared to oppose him. The fall of Lucius is a cautionary tale, a reminder of the dangers of unchecked ambition and the seductive power of chaos. What began as a noble pursuit of excellence ended in corruption and damnation, leaving a legacy as dark as it is eternal. Yet for Lucius, there is no regret, no remorse, only the next duel, the next victim, and the unending cycle of death and rebirth that defines his existence. The life of Lucius the Eternal is a tale marked by triumphs, betrayals, and an endless pursuit of perfection that ultimately bound him to an eternal curse. The events of his life unfold as a grim chronicle of his transformation from a prodigious warrior of the Emperor's children to one of the most infamous champions of Slaanesh. Below is a chronological account of the defining moments in his life, highlighting the steps that led him to infamy. Lucius's story begins in the golden era of the Great Crusade, when the Emperor's children were among the most revered Space Marine legions. As a young Astartes, Lucius quickly distinguished himself as a master swordsman. His dueling skills were unmatched within the Legion, earning him a reputation as an artist of war. This relentless drive to excel set him apart from his brothers, even as it sowed the seeds of his eventual fall. Lucius's victories in countless duels against fellow Astartes elevated him to positions of prominence, yet his obsession with individual combat left him increasingly isolated within the ranks. His early career was defined by battlefield success, as the Emperor's children sought to bring the Emperor's vision of unity to the stars. Yet even during these campaigns, Lucius demonstrated an unsettling tendency to view his comrades as rivals and his battles as performances. His pursuit of perfection was already transforming into an unhealthy fixation, a flaw masked by the glory of the Legion's victories. The Horus Heresy marked a turning point for Lucius, as it did for all the legions. When Fulgrim, the Primarch of the Emperor's children, embraced chaos, Lucius followed without hesitation. The ideals of perfection and transcendence espoused by Slaanesh aligned perfectly with his personal philosophy. However, the betrayal of the loyalist elements of the Legion on Istvan III revealed the full depth of Lucius's corruption. During the bombardment of Istvan III, Lucius joined the traitors in slaughtering their loyalist brethren. This battle was personal for him as he faced off against Saul Tarvitz, a loyalist and once a close comrade. Tarvitz, embodying the Emperor's vision of honor and duty, stood as a direct contrast to Lucius's growing arrogance and cruelty. Though Lucius sought to prove his superiority by defeating Tarvitz, his plans were thwarted, forcing him into retreat. This failure left a deep scar on Lucius's psyche, fueling his obsession with eradicating any trace of doubt about his skills. As the Horus Heresy unfolded, Lucius fully embraced the hedonistic and violent ethos of Slaanesh. The Emperor's children descended into chaos, becoming a legion of mutilated and corrupted figures who reveled in excess and cruelty. Lucius rose to prominence within this new order, his combat skills earning him favor from Fulgrim and other corrupted leaders. This period was marked by Lucius's growing notoriety as a champion of chaos. His duels became blood-soaked spectacles, and his once pristine armor was adorned with grotesque trophies taken from his victims. No longer bound by loyalty or morality, Lucius saw every battle as an opportunity to refine his deadly art, slaughtering friend and foe alike in his relentless pursuit of perfection. Lucius's transformation into the Eternal, the cursed champion of Slaanesh, occurred after the Horus Heresy, during the chaotic years of infighting among the traitor legions in the Eye of Terror. By this time, his fame as an undefeated duelist had spread far and wide, attracting challengers eager to prove themselves against him. In one such encounter, Lucius was defeated for the first time. His opponent, another champion of chaos, managed to overcome Lucius's skill and struck him down. But in death, Lucius's arrogance proved indomitable. The victor, overcome by a moment of satisfaction and pride, fell victim to Slaanesh's curse. They were consumed by their own envy and guilt, their body and soul twisted into a grotesque reflection of Lucius. From their flesh, Lucius was reborn, emerging stronger and more horrifying than before. This marked the birth of Lucius the Eternal, a cursed existence where every victory against him became a death sentence for his opponent. As the Eternal, Lucius became an instrument of Slaanesh, leading raids and campaigns across the galaxy. His legend grew with each battle, as tales of his immortality and his horrific curse spread terror among both mortal and immortal foes. He became a figure of dread even among the forces of chaos, as few dared to challenge him directly. Lucius played key roles in numerous conflicts involving the Emperor's children, acting as a lieutenant to Fulgrim and as a warlord in his own right. His path crossed with many of the Imperium's defenders, including the Ultramarines, Salamanders, and Grey Knights, each of whom sought to end his reign of terror. None succeeded, as the curse of Slaanesh ensured Lucius's resurrection time and again. Lucius's infamy reached its peak during the 41st millennium as he continued to plague the galaxy with his violent artistry. His duels against champions of other Chaos gods, including Khorne's bloodthirsty warlords, became grim spectacles of excess and brutality. Yet, even as his reputation grew, Lucius remained unsatisfied, always seeking the next challenge to prove his mastery. Despite his unending victories, Lucius was not invulnerable. On rare occasions, he was brought low by powerful adversaries. But no matter how many times he was struck down, the curse ensured his return, reborn from the envy of those who dared to best him. This cycle of death and rebirth became both his triumph and his torment, as he was forever bound to his own unrelenting pursuit of perfection. By the end of the 41st millennium, Lucius stood as a symbol of Slaanesh's dominion, an eternal reminder of the horrors of excess and ambition. His existence is a paradox, a warrior who cannot die, a champion who cannot be defeated, and an artist whose canvas is the endless carnage of war. Whether leading raiding parties into the Imperium or clashing with rival warbands in the Eye of Terror, Lucius's tale remains one of the most haunting in the galaxy, a testament to the dangers of unchecked arrogance and the dark allure of chaos. Among the many infamous tales surrounding Lucius the Eternal, one event stands as the defining moment of his existence, the moment of his death and rebirth as the cursed champion of Slaanesh. This singular event not only solidified his role as an immortal servant of the Chaos God of Excess, but also created a legend that strikes fear into the hearts of even the most stalwart warriors across the galaxy. This pivotal event occurred during the tumultuous years following the Horus Heresy, a time when the Emperor's children had fully embraced the worship of Slaanesh. The Legion, once a symbol of honor and perfection, had degenerated into a grotesque reflection of its former self. In this era of debauchery and betrayal, Lucius had risen to prominence as one of the most celebrated and feared duelists among the Chaos Space Marines. His unrelenting quest for perfection in battle had earned him countless victories and a reputation as an unstoppable force. But even for Lucius, the path to immortality was fraught with challenges. Lucius's defining moment began when he encountered a rival Chaos champion whose skill and ambition rivaled his own. This individual, whose name has been lost to history, was another servant of Chaos who sought to prove their superiority by defeating the legendary duelist. Lucius, ever eager to demonstrate his dominance, accepted the challenge without hesitation. The two clashed in a brutal, awe-inspiring duel that lasted for hours, each combatant pushing the limits of their skill and endurance. Witnesses to the fight described it as a grotesque dance of death, a display of martial artistry so exquisite and horrific that even the gods of chaos took notice. For the first time, Lucius found himself evenly matched. His opponent's technique was flawless, their strikes precise and unrelenting. Lucius, driven by his insatiable need to prove his perfection, fought with unparalleled ferocity. The duel became a battle of wills, with neither combatant willing to yield. But in the end, Lucius fell. His rival delivered the killing blow, shattering his armor and piercing his heart. Lucius, the self-proclaimed greatest swordsman in the galaxy, lay defeated. It was not Lucius's skill or resilience that would define what happened next, but his unshakable arrogance. Even in death, Lucius believed himself superior, and this conviction carried a dark power. His rival, victorious and reveling in their triumph, made a fatal mistake. They felt pride in their accomplishment. This fleeting sense of satisfaction was all that Slaanesh needed to enact the horrific curse that would immortalize Lucius. The rival's body began to warp and twist, their features contorting into a grotesque parody of Lucius's own visage. They screamed in agony as their flesh and soul were consumed, their identity erased and replaced by the essence of the fallen duelist. When the transformation was complete, Lucius stood once more, reborn in the flesh of his killer. His laughter echoed across the battlefield, a chilling sound that marked the beginning of his eternal curse. This moment marked the birth of Lucius the Eternal, a champion whose very existence is a cruel paradox. Any warrior who defeats him in single combat and feels even a shred of pride or satisfaction is doomed to become the vessel for his resurrection. Their body and soul are consumed by the curse, leaving no trace of their original identity. This unholy rebirth ensures that Lucius cannot truly die, as his arrogance and the envy of his foes fuel his immortality. The curse of Lucius is more than just a punishment for those who oppose him. It is a manifestation of Slaaneş's power and ethos. It exemplifies the Chaos God's ability to twist beauty into horror, perfection into torment, and triumph into despair. For Lucius, the curse is both a blessing and a burden. It ensures his immortality and status as Slaaneş's chosen champion, but it also traps him in an endless cycle of death and rebirth, denying him the release of true victory or satisfaction. This event also cemented Lucius's infamy among the forces of Chaos and the Imperium alike. To the loyalist Space Marines, he became a symbol of the dangers of pride and excess, a cautionary tale of what happens when ambition goes unchecked. To his fellow servants of Chaos, he became a figure of fear and envy, a champion whose curse ensures that even victory over him leads to damnation. Among the mortal soldiers of the Imperium, stories of Lucius the Eternal are whispered with dread, his name a reminder of the horrors that await those who dare to challenge the forces of Chaos. The moment of his transformation into the Eternal also redefined Lucius's approach to battle. No longer was he merely a warrior seeking perfection. He became a living weapon of terror, his duels serving as grotesque performances dedicated to Slaaneş. Each encounter is a macabre ritual, a testament to his unyielding arrogance and the dark power of his patron god. For Lucius, every victory is another step toward his ultimate goal, to prove, beyond any doubt, that he is the greatest duelist in the galaxy. In the centuries since his rebirth, this curse has continued to define Lucius's existence. Time and again, warriors have faced him on the battlefield, and time and again, they have fallen victim to the curse. Some have tried to resist its pull, denying themselves pride in their victory, but even the slightest flicker of satisfaction has proven enough to seal their fate. For Lucius, this endless cycle of conquest and resurrection is not a limitation. It is the ultimate proof of his perfection, a testament to his unassailable skill and indomitable will. The duel that marked his transformation into the Eternal is remembered as both his greatest triumph and his greatest tragedy. It is a moment that encapsulates everything Lucius represents: the relentless pursuit of perfection, the seductive power of chaos, and the eternal curse that ensures his legend will endure as long as the galaxy itself. The consequences of Lucius the Eternal's rise to infamy ripple across the Warhammer 40,000 universe, affecting not only those who face him, but also the broader dynamics of Chaos, the Imperium, and beyond. His transformation into an undying champion of Slaaneş has far-reaching implications, shaping the destinies of individuals, factions, and the galaxy itself. One of the most immediate and personal consequences of Lucius's curse is the profound dread it instills in his adversaries. The knowledge that defeating Lucius in single combat will result in a fate worse than death, being consumed by his curse and becoming the next vessel for his rebirth, paralyzes many would-be challengers. This psychological toll is particularly devastating among the mortal soldiers of the Imperium, who often lack the mental resilience of the Adeptus Astartes. For them, the legend of Lucius becomes a weapon in itself, eroding morale and fostering fear before the first blow is struck. Even among the Space Marines and other elite warriors, the existence of Lucius poses a unique challenge. His curse turns victory into a double-edged sword, forcing even the most skilled champions to approach him with caution. While some accept the risk as a necessary sacrifice, others are tempted to avoid confrontation altogether, leaving Lucius free to spread carnage and terror unchecked. His immortality creates a sense of futility, as no matter how many times he is struck down, he always returns, stronger and more terrifying than before. This unrelenting cycle has earned him the enmity of countless chapters of Space Marines, particularly those who have faced him in battle and suffered the loss of their brothers to his curse. The Imperium as a whole bears the weight of Lucius's existence. Every campaign he leads or participates in furthers the goals of chaos, spreading death and destruction across the galaxy. His presence on the battlefield often serves as a rallying point for the Emperor's children and other chaos warbands, uniting disparate factions under his banner. His skill as a duelist and commander ensures that these forces can wreak untold havoc, whether raiding the worlds of the Imperium or clashing with rival chaos factions. The resources and lives lost in battles against Lucius and his followers weaken the Imperium's already strained defenses, leaving vulnerable sectors open to further invasion. For the Emperor's children, Lucius is both a symbol of their descent into depravity and a source of pride. His unholy curse, granted by Slaanesh, serves as proof of their patron god's favor. Lucius's continued existence is a testament to the power of excess and the rewards that await those who fully embrace chaos. His legend inspires other followers of Slaanesh, encouraging them to pursue their own twisted visions of perfection. However, his arrogance and insatiable hunger for dominance also create tension within the Emperor's children, as rivals vie for Slaanesh's attention and seek to surpass Lucius's achievements. Lucius's influence extends beyond the confines of the Emperor's children. Among the Chaos warbands of the Eye of Terror, he is both respected and feared. His reputation as an undefeated duelist and an immortal champion of Slaanesh ensures that few dare to challenge him directly. Yet, his presence often provokes conflict, as his relentless pursuit of perfection clashes with the ambitions of other Chaos champions. For the Black Legion and other major Chaos forces, Lucius is a valuable asset, but also a volatile one, his ego and bloodlust making him as much a liability as an ally. These tensions underscore the fractious nature of chaos, where even the most powerful figures are bound by tenuous alliances. The far-reaching consequences of Lucius's curse also highlight the insidious nature of Slaanesh's influence. His unending cycle of death and rebirth is not simply a gift to Lucius. It is a manifestation of Slaanesh's ethos, spreading the god's dominion through fear, envy, and despair. Every warrior who falls to Lucius becomes a vessel for this influence, their transformation into his reborn form a grim reminder of chaos's power to corrupt and consume. This cycle erodes the morale and cohesion of those who oppose Slaanesh, creating opportunities for the Emperor's children and other servants of the Prince of Excess to expand their reach. Beyond the immediate impact of Lucius's actions, his existence serves as a grim cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked ambition and the seductive power of chaos. His transformation from a noble warrior of the Emperor's children to an immortal champion of Slaanesh reflects the broader fall of his legion and the tragedy of the Horus heresy. For the Imperium, Lucius embodies the ultimate failure of the Emperor's vision, a space marine created to be the pinnacle of humanity, corrupted and twisted into a monster. His story is a reminder of the cost of hubris and the fragile nature of loyalty in the face of chaos. For the forces of chaos, Lucius's existence reinforces the allure and the peril of serving the dark gods. While his immortality and martial prowess are undeniable, they come at the cost of his humanity and any semblance of peace. Lucius is bound by his curse, trapped in an eternal cycle of violence and rebirth that offers neither resolution nor satisfaction. This paradox, the promise of power and the reality of torment, is at the heart of chaos, and Lucius serves as its living embodiment. Even the Xenos races of the galaxy are not immune to the consequences of Lucius's actions. The Aeldari, in particular, regard him with a mixture of contempt and fear, seeing in him a grotesque reflection of their own tragic history. His clashes with the Aeldari, especially the Asuryani and Drukhari, have left scars on both sides, as their shared obsession with perfection drives them into violent conflict. For the Aeldari, Lucius is a reminder of the price of excess and the horrors that await those who stray too far from balance. Ultimately, the consequences of Lucius the Eternal's existence extend far beyond his individual actions. He is a force of chaos incarnate, a perpetual threat to the Imperium, and a dark mirror of its ideals. His legend serves as both a warning and a weapon, a tale of hubris and horror that continues to shape the fate of the galaxy. Whether leading a war band in a bloody campaign, dueling a rival champion, or simply existing as a symbol of Slaanesh's dominion, Lucius leaves an indelible mark on all who cross his path. His story is far from over, and as long as he endures, the consequences of his unholy curse will continue to echo through the endless war of the 41st millennium. Lucius the Eternal's effectiveness in battle is not just a result of his skill and cursed immortality. It is deeply tied to the horrific and ingenious war gear he wields. His armor and weapons are not merely tools, but extensions of his corrupted nature, blending the once pristine craftsmanship of the Emperor's children with the grotesque influence of Slaanesh. These technologies and warped enhancements have made him a living nightmare on the battlefield. Lucius's armor, known as the Armor of Shrieking Souls, is a terrifying masterpiece of chaos. Originally forged during the golden era of the Emperor's children, it was a symbol of the Legion's pursuit of perfection. Over millennia, as the Legion fell to Slaanesh, the armor became twisted and alive, a manifestation of Lucius's cruelty and hubris. Its surface is adorned with writhing faces, open mouths frozen in eternal screams, and intricate flowing patterns that pulse with unholy energy. These are not mere decorations. The faces belong to the souls of Lucius's victims, trapped in his armor as a permanent reminder of his victories. The armor serves multiple sinister purposes. The wails and screams of the trapped souls create an aura of terror around Lucius. This constant cacophony unnerves enemies, breaking their morale and distracting them in battle. The souls also react to attacks, releasing bursts of warp energy to deflect blows or manifesting briefly as ghostly hands to claw at attackers who come too close. Lucius's already extraordinary reflexes are enhanced by the armor, as the bound spirits act as an extension of his awareness, alerting him to incoming threats or subtle changes in the battlefield. Perhaps the most horrifying aspect of the armor is its connection to Lucius's curse. When he is slain, his essence overtakes the body of his killer, transforming them into a new version of Lucius. The armor plays a key role in this process, binding itself to the new host as if it were always a part of him. This continuity ensures that Lucius's legend and terror are eternal, as the armor carries the weight of his unending cycle of death and rebirth. Equally iconic is Lucius's weapon, the Blade of Perfection. This sword is as much a work of art as it is an instrument of death, reflecting Lucius's obsession with perfection. Its blade shimmers unnaturally, drawing the eye with its sinuous, almost hypnotic design. It was forged during the Emperor's children's descent into chaos, and like its master, it is warped by the influence of Slaanesh. The blade's edge is impossibly sharp, capable of slicing through the heaviest armor and even cutting into the essence of its victims. Against psychers or spiritually attuned enemies, it is particularly devastating, severing their connection to the warp with its chaotic energy. The weapon is not static. It shifts subtly in battle, its form adapting to complement Lucius's fluid fighting style. The blade might curve to exploit an opponent's exposed flank or lengthen slightly to strike at an unexpected angle. This adaptability makes it a perfect tool for Lucius, whose duels are performances as much as they are contests of skill. Lucius's arsenal is not limited to his armor and sword. Over centuries of combat, he has integrated numerous technologies into his gear to enhance his lethality. His armor's power pack houses emitters that release disorienting waves of sonic energy, a trademark of the Emperor's children. These sonic bursts can incapacitate enemies, shattering their eardrums or scrambling their sense of balance. For Lucius, every aspect of his gear is designed not only to kill, but to humiliate and terrorize his foes, feeding his own twisted sense of superiority. Despite its grotesque and supernatural nature, Lucius's war gear retains a trace of the craftsmanship for which the Emperor's children were once known. The intricate carvings, flowing lines, and near-flawless construction hint at the Legion's glorious past, a stark contrast to the horrifying corruption that now defines them. This blend of beauty and terror is a perfect reflection of Lucius himself, embodying the ideals of Slaanesh in every detail. In battle, Lucius wields his war gear with an unmatched elegance that belies its deadly purpose. He treats combat as a form of art, using his weapons and armor to create a horrifying spectacle that leaves his enemies awestruck and broken. His strikes are precise and devastating, his movements a seamless blend of grace and brutality. With every duel, every victory, and every soul trapped in his armor, Lucius perfects his craft, becoming an ever more terrifying instrument of chaos. Ultimately, Lucius's armor and weapons are not just tools. They are manifestations of his essence, reflections of his eternal pursuit of perfection and his devotion to Slaanesh. They define him as much as his curse and his skills, ensuring that he remains one of the most fearsome and enduring figures in the grim darkness of the far future. Throughout his life, Lucius the Eternal has crossed paths with numerous significant figures, both allies and adversaries, whose encounters with him have left an indelible mark on his legend. These individuals have shaped the trajectory of his story, serving as reflections of his own flaws, rivals for his ambitions, or foils to his descent into chaos. Here are some of the most prominent figures who have played key roles in the life of the Blade of Perfection. Fulgrim, the Primarch of the Emperor's children. Lucius's connection to Fulgrim, the Primarch of the Emperor's children, is one of the most defining relationships in his life. Fulgrim was the embodiment of the pursuit of perfection, a charismatic leader who inspired his legion to strive for excellence in all things. For Lucius, Fulgrim was more than a commander. He was an ideal to emulate. Lucius's obsession with becoming the perfect warrior mirrored Fulgrim's own ambition, though the Primarch's descent into chaos would ultimately corrupt both. When Fulgrim succumbed to the whispers of Slaanesh, embracing excess and decadence, Lucius eagerly followed. He saw the Primarch's transformation not as a fall, but as an evolution, a path toward achieving true perfection without the constraints of loyalty or morality. Fulgrim, now a demon prince of Slaanesh, continues to loom over Lucius's life, both as an inspiration and as a constant reminder of what the Emperor's children have become. Their relationship, though rarely direct, underscores Lucius's role as a symbol of the Legion's degradation. Saul Tarvitz, the Loyalist foil. One of the most pivotal figures in Lucius's life is Saul Tarvitz, a Loyalist captain of the Emperor's children who resisted the corruption of chaos during the Horus Heresy. Tarvitz was everything Lucius once claimed to uphold: noble, honorable, and committed to the Emperor's ideals. Their rivalry came to a head during the betrayal at Istvan III, where the traitorous Emperor's children sought to eliminate their Loyalist brethren in a planetary bombardment. Tarvitz emerged as a leader among the Loyalists, organizing a resistance against the traitors. Lucius, by contrast, revealed his treachery, betraying his comrades to curry favor with the chaos-corrupted leadership. Despite his skill, Lucius was unable to best Tarvitz during the conflict. The Loyalist captain's tactical acumen and moral clarity stood in stark contrast to Lucius's arrogance and self-serving nature. Although Lucius ultimately survived where Tarvitz did not, Their rivalry left a lasting scar on his psyche. Tarvitz became a symbol of everything Lucius had abandoned, and his failure to defeat him outright only deepened his obsession with proving his superiority. Fabius Bile, the Twisted Apothecary. Fabius Bile, the chief apothecary of the Emperor's Children, is another figure closely intertwined with Lucius's story. Bile's grotesque experiments and quest to perfect the human form through genetic manipulation have made him a polarizing figure, even among the traitor legions. While Lucius and Bile share a common allegiance to Slaanesh, their relationship is marked by tension and mutual disdain. Lucius views Bile's methods as a mockery of true perfection. To him, Bile's reliance on science and alchemy undermines the artistry of combat and personal achievement. Bile, in turn, sees Lucius as a primitive, narrow-minded brute, blind to the broader potential of evolution and transformation. Despite their animosity, the two have cooperated on occasion, with Bile enhancing Lucius's abilities through his grotesque augmentations. Their uneasy alliance reflects the fractious nature of the Emperor's Children, where ambition and egotism often outweigh camaraderie. Abaddon, the Despoiler, the War Master of Chaos. As one of the most prominent leaders of the Chaos Forces, Abaddon the Despoiler has occasionally crossed paths with Lucius. The War Master of Chaos views Lucius as a valuable but unpredictable asset. Lucius's combat prowess and immortality make him a formidable force on the battlefield, but his arrogance and self-absorption often strain their relationship. Abaddon's pragmatic approach to war clashes with Lucius's obsession with duels and individual glory. While Abaddon seeks to unite the Chaos Forces under his banner to wage war on the Imperium, Lucius's priorities are far more personal. This dynamic has led to friction between the two, with Lucius often defying Abaddon's orders in pursuit of his own ambitions. Despite these tensions, Abaddon recognizes the value of Lucius's skills and tolerates his eccentricities. For now, the Mask of Slaanesh, a rival champion. Among the champions of Slaanesh, few are as enigmatic and dangerous as the Mask, a demon who serves as one of the Dark Prince's most devoted servants. Lucius and the Mask share a common allegiance, but their encounters have been marked by rivalry rather than cooperation. The Mask's role as a performer and agent of Slaanesh mirrors Lucius's own obsession with artistry in combat, but their methods and philosophies differ greatly. While Lucius seeks perfection through dueling and martial skill, the Mask embodies the chaotic and unpredictable nature of Slaanesh's whims. Their clashes are as much ideological as they are physical, with each seeking to prove their superiority as the ultimate servant of their patron god. These rivalries underscore the competitive and fractious nature of Slaanesh's followers, where even those who share the same allegiance are driven to outdo one another. Chaplain Grimaldus, a beacon of faith. Among Lucius's many foes, few have stood as unwaveringly against chaos as Chaplain Grimaldus of the Black Templars. Although their encounters have been brief, Grimaldus represents a stark contrast to Lucius's twisted ethos. As a staunch defender of the Emperor's faith and an unyielding warrior, Grimaldus epitomizes the values Lucius once claimed to uphold but ultimately abandoned. Grimaldus's defiance in the face of chaos serves as a counterpoint to Lucius's arrogance and corruption. While Lucius revels in excess and self-indulgence, Grimaldus finds strength in duty and sacrifice. Their battles are clashes of not only skill, but also ideology, with each seeking to prove the superiority of their path. Eldar Autarchs and Drukhari Lords, the Xenos rivals. Lucius's obsession with perfection has also drawn him into conflict with the Eldar, whose own pursuit of refinement and mastery often puts them at odds with him. The craft world Eldar, particularly their Autarchs, see Lucius as a grotesque perversion of their ideals, while Lucius delights in dismantling their carefully honed techniques in combat. Similarly, the sadistic Drukhari have found themselves both allies and enemies of Lucius. their shared allegiance to excess leading to uneasy alliances and spectacular betrayals. These figures, whether allies, rivals, or enemies, have all played a role in shaping the legend of Lucius the Eternal. Each encounter highlights a different facet of his character, his arrogance, his skill, his cruelty, and his eternal curse. Through these relationships, Lucius's story becomes not just a tale of one man's fall, but a reflection of the broader struggles and contradictions of the Warhammer 40,000 universe. The cursed existence of Lucius the Eternal continued to spiral deeper into the endless chaos of the 41st millennium. His infamy, carried across the galaxy by whispers and terror, brought him to the forefront of yet another dark crusade waged by the Emperor's children. Fulgrim, now a monstrous demon primarch of Slaanesh, had summoned his wayward champion to lead a devastating assault on the Imperium. The goal was clear: the utter desecration of a shrine world dedicated to the Emperor, an act of blasphemy so profound it would reverberate through the warp. Lucius accepted with glee. His hubris, unshaken despite the cracks in his legend, drove him to treat the campaign as his ultimate performance. The battlefield became his stage, and the faithful defenders of the shrine world were cast as unwilling participants in his grotesque play.